This is the goddess Minerva. She's typically depicted with the owl being for wisdom. The goddess Minerva was the goddess of wisdom, medicine, poetry, war, and commerce. Typically, she's depicted with the owl for a reason. The owl watches out over night, but the owl can see in the dark, and the owl can see into the future. The owl was wise. Now, my contention is we can use Minerva to predict the price of silver. So, let us see if Minerva is helping us. This is a net Dania chart, and you notice I don't have any lines on here at all. The price of silver, notice that has actually been steadied out for the last 2 weeks. We had a hard, fast test of 27 something, but what's coming up on the radar is probably more problems with Europe. Now, this is a map of Europe and North Africa as depicted during the Roman times. So these are the kind of maps they used to have to deal with. But while we're talking about Europe, this is a map of Europe. You see Dacia is right here, Scandia, Armenia, and Thrace in Macedonia. It's Greece. Now, the one problem that's coming up with Europe is probably going to be with Greece. Greece looks like it's going to exit the euro and it's going to return to the drachma. So that is going to have some major repercussions to the financial markets. Also, there's more turmoil going on in Spain. Now, fundamentally, silver should be a lot higher, but I think there's going to be some more problems coming up that's actually going to drive the metal down even further. Now, I know a lot of people are saying fundamentally it should be a lot higher and the banksters are doing everything. The banksters are doing everything. Well, the banksters are not actually doing all the evil that people think they are doing. Yes, they play games. Yes, they will probably have advanced information and they know which way markets are going to come out. I mean, somebody has to write the stories that appear in Reuters, and you imagine some people probably act upon that maybe inside of trading houses. I would imagine that's always the case and has always been the case. But as far as silver being going down by itself, it did today. But normally that's not the case. We see palladium and platinum are down even though there's fundamentally shortages of those metals. And we see copper is down. Very important to look at copper because it's known as Dr. Copper. That means that production is down widespread globally. And also zinc is down. And lead is down, and aluminum is down, and oil's down, and the Dow is down, and the S&P is down. So, it's not just a silver thing. Silver's getting hit harder, but actually it's going to spring back and do extremely well, unexpectedly well. Now, I'm not saying this as a silver pumper dumper. I'm saying this as I'm using the wisdom of Minerva and the owl itself. So, silver will spring back, but it is not at the bottom yet. It is not at the bottom yet. Fundamentally, silver should be a lot higher, and I know it's not, but it is. That's just how it is. Now, Minerva you can trust. She's the goddess of poetry, medicine, wisdom, commerce, weaving, crafts, and magic. She's always accompanied by the Owl of Minerva. Also in Etruscan times, she was the goddess of wisdom, war, arts, schools, and commerce. Etrusca being the northern Italy before there was Rome. And as far as the owl itself, the owl can make predictions. It not only can see in the dark, but it also is awake at night. It never sleeps, basically. It's awake when everybody else is sleeping, so it watches over us. So that is probably part of your mythology on part of your occult garbage that you talk about it with the Bohemia Grove and all that stuff too. Nothing I really care about too much, but I think this price of silver though is going to do beyond stellar. I want to point out something else about China. China wants the yuan to be a gold-backed currency, like the Swiss franc was at the very inception. Swiss franc was gold-backed, and that was the currency everybody ran to for safety. It will help the yuan to become a major international currency. Now, China goes back historically longer than Rome. So I know they got ambitions. They got ambitions to restore themselves as a premier global power as they were before in antiquity. China will become the largest buyer of gold. They're actually going to become a bigger buyer of gold than India. Purpose is to partially back the yuan. The goal is to knock the US dollar off its perch as the world's reserve currency. Now, I want to point out that nothing done in China is not done without the full blessing of the insider elite on the West. This is coordinated, and the West is going to be brought down and equalized while China is going to be pushed up. That's their plan. Now, I always state that this is a dangerous plan because actually when certain, everything's supposed to be equal, interdependent, where no nation can rise up against the other because they're interdependent, nothing will be totally autonomous, whereas they can produce, in other words, be a war machine that could try to take over the planet. But I doubt if that's going to work. And we're probably going to see a little problem with our Western leaders' plans backfiring. And I want to point out, though, that silver and gold, although I don't think they're here at the lowest low yet, when things start to take off, you have to remember that silver went up about 26% in a matter of a couple months due to the anticipation of an announcement of QE. It wasn't even QE. QE3 is probably will be formally announced. Probably. Because the situation actually is probably getting that severe in the economy, because just look at all the prices of all the metals and the markets. They're gonna print money to prop things up. So what's going to happen is, when that happens, silver and gold are going to take off. Actually, gold is going to take off first, but silver is going to catch up and surpass it. But also, I want you to remember, look very carefully at the Fibonacci, because probably the next time we might see a pullback, like a more minor pullback. Maybe it'll be like at 40 something, but we might see a major pullback when it gets over 70. And that's when you're going to hear all the people screaming up and down that it's going to at least 100. And, everything's falling apart, but it probably won't. It probably won't go straight to 100. And watch that silver-gold ratio also. So watching those things like the Fibonacci can give you the predictability of the Owl of Minerva. Watching that silver-gold ratio also can be extremely helpful. So that can help us peer into the future and see when the next major pullback is. My intention is to actually sell a good portion of physical and reload and buy back cheaper. It's a risk, but it's a risk I'm going to take.